just take a second. Okay, I think we're live now.
Yes.
All right.
Welcome, everyone.
Cool. I guess I will do some introductions. So I am Kirsten Hurley, Managing Director of one of the teams here at thoughtbot. We work with clients across Europe, West Asia, and Africa. thoughtbot designs and builds software for clients across all manner of industries. We're not discerning, but we do actually really enjoy working with clients that give us particularly high fulfillment, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second, i.e. software with purpose to make the world a better place. But really, I think the value of our approach is that we sit down with our clients and we look at their problems, starting right at the business end of the spectrum, and then we look at how we can translate that into great software with excellent user experience, both internally and for customers of those companies that we work with as well. So no one wants to hear any more from me, I'm sure. So perhaps I will pass over to Svenja to talk a little bit about how our Green Tech initiative kicked off.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kirsten. My name is Svenja. I'm a developer at thoughtbot. And I'm based usually in Spain, currently in Ireland. And well, it was something what I really like while being or when starting at thoughtbot is the clients. So like Kirsten said, how we feel fulfilled in what we do, and that mirrors in the client that we have and that we like to work with. And when I was thinking about Q4 goals, like quarter four goals, I thought it would be really nice to get closer with the green tech sector, because this is something that's very important to me. And so I had a chat with Kirsten and I said, how does it actually work when I'm interested in to collaborate with thoughtbot, to hire thoughtbot? What happens when I find myself on the website, for example, and say, oh, that sounds interesting, they're nice folks. Who do I contact, and what happens when I click the button, for example, hire us or contact us? Because I was never on that side of the I was never on that side. I was on I'm developing, and kind of when the contract was there already and not before. And I'm really interested, and so I said I would like to join some calls, before the introductory calls, and we're going to talk about that, and just also to maybe take the fear, if there is any fear. So when you just like don't know what kind of people are they, and so everyone I thought was really, really friendly, so there's no need to be stressed or have an anxiety about that. We are here to answer all the questions, to also ask questions, clarifying, and we're going to talk more about that in the next during that stream. I gonna pass to Feria.
Actually, I'll chip in.
Sure.
Just to say, yeah. So as managing director, I'm primarily responsible for the commercial side of the business development, things like that. But when we work together as a team to identify what would give us fulfillment, then we look at particular types of clients that we want to make a difference with. We were lucky enough earlier in the year to work with Samaritans on a mobile app, which was something that we felt quite passionately. A few folks in the team really felt like that's working with charities is something that we want to be able to use our skills for good. And when you came to me talking about your Q4 goals, Svenja, you mentioned green tech. I think we'd had several conversations throughout the team about in the environment and our impact. When we talk about meeting up as a team, we look at locations where people can travel, not necessarily by plane, but rail and things like that. We also look at things like sustainable software development. One of our colleagues, George, actually ran an introductory session about how we can minimize our footprint when we're building software with clients. So these kind of things were bubbling away, but you said, well, actually, how can we turn this into working with a client? And so we actually went to the team and said, does anyone have any contacts in green tech where we can build our own knowledge, because we don't want to launch ourselves in a sector and patronize people straight away with our opinions. We wanted to learn. And it was actually George again, who actually said, Martin, CTO at BeeOdiversity, he's someone who he knows in the industry, and thought, well, actually, he might be a great person for us to talk to. And as it transpired, there was a need there for some assistance. So I think actually I'll turn over to Martin to introduce himself and talk a little bit about BeeOdiversity, and then we'll go over to Feria to talk about the actual problem that we were helping solve, if that's okay.
Yeah, looks great. So hi, everyone. Name is Martin. I've been doing software development for a while. I'd say at this time I'm 45, so then 46, and time flies. Anyway, those last 10 years, I've been mostly trying to put my career into software that matters, which is sustainability, but other areas. So the nice part that probably you people know at thoughtbot is that when you're mastering in a way technique and not a sector, means that I was able to work in education, I was able to work in public health, I'm now able to work in biodiversity, which are all domains I care about as an individual, and I know nothing about as a professional. Like it's each has its own area. And so I joined BeeOdiversity 2 years ago. So in a nutshell, the company is doing biodiversity audit since 10 years or so. The nice part is that it's the bee, like in the bees. Why, technically speaking, we do our audit by putting hives on site by the customer. And so the bees are collecting pollen around, roughly in a circle of 1.5 kilometers. They bring back the pollen. We have a little device at the hives level which collects a bit of pollen each time a bee gets in. And so after 2 months, we analyze the pollen and we get an overview of everything regarding pesticide, regarding biodiversity, all in a circle. So this is what the company is doing as a consulting. Which is pretty nice already. And so 2 years ago, they decided to move that to the next level by pretty much offering customer a way to analyze the site much faster by not going there at all, and by just having a software where they can put the coordinates and say, I'm here, give me a first overview. So how can we do that? Well, you have data about a reserve, like a natural reserve, and so you have programs such as Natura 2K in Europe or others, which can give you an idea and this sort of what I call a statistical audit. It's not the same as going on site, but it can probably be offered like at €50 a site, which is difficult to get someone in at that price. So that's a bit the idea. This is still something we are pretty much in like business development and development at the same time, because we know there is a need, but the only way to know is to put it in the hand of people. I think it's something that I remember Feria telling me when I say, oh, it's interesting for us, whether you have a process. And he told me at the end, either you have a very clear decision or you don't, and then you try something, you put it in the hand of customer and you see what happened, which I find surprisingly refreshing and close to my no technique regarding this area. So yeah, coming to, as I was going, is that, yeah, I was in contact with George because I'm also a former teacher at Le Wagon, so a bootcamp in Ruby, so which means there's a bit of like we know each other, therefore being from Brussels. And so, yeah, when George said we are looking for something in sustainability, I was, well, I'm a bit working therein. And then it was about UX and say, well, you know what? Maybe timing is good. It's a bit early compared to what we would have done by ourselves, but the opportunity was there. So we were put in contact first with Kirsten, then with Feria about, okay, what can we do there? Knowing that, like you said, Kirsten, we like complicated things, is that I don't think I made Feria's life easier, because in a way, I started by saying, you know what, we're a 4-people team. We're not going to rethink everything from first principle, even if those first principles are good. That's not about whatever you can bring. It's about what we are going to do. And so, yeah, it was a bit about saying that those are our constraints. Can you work inside those? At least, to be honest, I think from the first time, and also with the opportunity for your side to say, well, you know what? If those are the rules, we don't play, which would have been honest. Like I said that to customers, so like, that's something I can understand. Like I hope you do that. You certainly do too sometimes, being able to say, no, that's not a context where we think we can bring value. But so yeah, we had a nice meeting about that, and then with our CEO. And that ended up being a very interesting 10 days, and I think I'll let him speak about that more than me. But so I'm very happy to be here.
Cool. Thanks very much, Martin. And yeah, just to round off the kind of introductions, my name is Feria. I'm a designer with thoughtbot. I'm based in Ireland. And yeah, it was really cool to be working on this project. Like as Kirsten and Svenja had said, everyone in thoughtbot was kind of been interested in trying to do things a little bit more sustainably, or software for good, that kind of concept. So this was really exciting to be part of. I really enjoyed working with Martin and the team. And definitely, yeah, they're like, what we decided to do was essentially a design audit. So we come in and look at what Biodiversity have right now, and just kind of give some recommendations based on best practices on how those things can be improved. The nice thing about an audit is that you don't have to do everything there. As Martin said, you know, it's a small team. So the kind of goal is to end up with a list of things that you could look to change or to consider kind of in future, but you don't have to act on everything right now. So that kind of allows a small team to kind of tackle that, those recommendations sort of piecemeal, I guess. And yeah, I think hopefully it was of some value to Martin and the team.
Cool. So I know that there was a list of recommendations that you came up with. I think 10 days is not a long time, but actually with a small team, you can move quite fast. So there's pros and cons of everything, really. And yes, Martin, we did have a very frank conversation about what is useful does our skill set align to the problems that you're experiencing, and you know, identifying some quick wins that you'd be able to implement fairly fast was an ideal scenario, as long as some more strategic items that you can maybe plan for in 2024. So I don't know, Feria, if you wanted to go through what those recommendations were, those findings, or if you just wanted to jump into potentially tackling one of the things that were identified. I will turn over to you, and I think myself and Svenja will lead the stage to give some screen real estate to you both.
Cool. Thanks, Kirsten. Yeah. I'll present. Let me just share my screen for a second, and we can just go through kind of what was involved with the audit first, I guess. So let me just see. Is my screen sharing there? Can everyone see that? Oh, I just need to add it to the stage. There we go. Cool. So yeah, I guess the first thing that Martin had mentioned, which is probably always helpful, and maybe Martin, you can speak to this as well, but just having basically a design process is something that often can be missing with, say, startups or scale-ups, when it's very much kind of, it can often be very focused on, you know, we need the next feature, or we need like to build something that's functional. But as Martin said, if you're deliberating kind of over, you know, should it be like this or should it be like this other thing for too long, having a design process like this is really helpful. The concept is fairly simple. It's basically that we do a couple of days understanding where we really try to get a grip of the problem, and then we just prototype something. So the advantage of prototyping is it's probably quicker than actually building it, but you know, you can prototype something in a day or two, and then you just put that in front of customers and see if it hits home. And generally speaking, you won't get it right first time, but you might have, you know, some things that work well and some things that don't. So that's how you know, in 2 days' time, you can put something else in front of them, and you're kind of iterating to get something a little bit closer. Was there anything there, Martin, that stood out in terms of design process that was particularly helpful?
Yeah, I guess that I'm probably not the only one there, is that I'm mostly leading a team of developers. We reasonably think we're very good regarding business development, because, well, the software was born out of a demo, which I remember getting out and my boss saying, oh, that's nice. How far are we to something that we can put in their hands? And the answer was pretty much, we are nowhere. Like, this is 2 planks holding a facade of a house. What's missing is the house. Like, at the time, for those users to that process, it was a React app with a JSON file with the data inside. But that worked because that brought us to the next step, which was something. But outside of that, Like we believe in talking with customer, we believe into small feature that goes relatively fast and quick interaction. But it's clear, notably on my level, I lack a formal process on that. I have a formal process for development, and for like fast development, this is something I've used too. And indeed, it's something we discussed very earlier, saying, okay, I'm in for the recommendation. I also want to learn a bit and maybe still part of the process so we can reapply that after. Not with the same level of knowledge, each on this job, but that doesn't mean we cannot pick something on the road, which was for me one of probably on a personal level probably the most interesting part.
Cool. Yeah, no, spot on, Martin. Yeah, that's the nice thing. Yeah, hopefully by the end of an audit, you will have learned something or have something that you can, I suppose, use going forward. And I guess just where we started on audit, so it's similar to this design process in that the beginning of an audit is just really trying to understand the business. So we were trying to understand biodiversity and this app in particular, which is BeeOimpact, which Martin had mentioned was kind of the statistical app around a company's, say, multiple sites, and just trying to see if they're exposed to pesticide risk or exposed to biodiversity risk. And yeah, so the beginning, it's very much, we spent, I think, probably about 2 days just speaking to the likes of Martin, and we spoke to Michael, the CEO there, and to Cyril as well, who's a sales rep. Sometimes in audits you might be able to speak to customers, but my French or lack of is a limiting factor in that, I think. So yeah, we were just kind of playing around, getting a sense of the site, what the most important things are here, what our customer goals are, like what a customer is hoping to do or achieve or to see when they come on the site. So that was kind of the beginning point for us, was to get a better understanding of that. As part of that, again, a lot of kind of startups and scale-ups might not have, say, powerful analytics tools. There are some companies that provide them, but those tools can sometimes tell you like what users are looking for or where they're kind of clicking or where they're looking. But in the absence of that, we can just use kind of best practices. So we kind of did a sort of an exercise where we're kind of trying to heat map everything that was on the site and kind of rank it in order of importance. So like, what is the most important thing here when a user comes online? And then Martin and I discussed this just to make sure that it was kind of correct. But just as one example here, like we were thinking on the dashboard, when you land onto it, there's a lot of information here. And probably the most critical thing is these high-risk sites. So the sites that are already in danger, that have a high risk of pesticide or high risk of impacting a biodiverse area. So that information kind of needs to stand out a little bit more, maybe than the ones that aren't as critical, or than some of these other statistics. So that was kind of the concept there, was just to go through each page and verify with Martin and the team what it is that we're looking at here, what's the most important thing. Another example here is just, we have some animals or some species listed here that are not overly threatened, and then we've got some that are kind of vulnerable or endangered. So again, we just want to make those kind of pop because they're the critical bits of information that we need. Martin, feel free to jump in if there's anything I'm skipping over here, but I'm just going to give a kind of general overview. And yeah, next up for us was just to kind of look at the user journey. So again, it kind of ties in with what they're expecting to see and what they want to achieve by the end of it. A lot of kind of rough work goes into this part, so where we're kind of playing around with things. And as we're going here, yeah.
Because you allowed me, so can you go back to user journey for a minute? Because that's a good example of something simple that ended up being surprisingly valuable for us. Is that we have those screens. I had, generally speaking, in my mind the logic. You get in, you have a dashboard. From there, you have a list. You select a site. You see details. So there was this drill down idea we had, and we were pretty sure it was interesting. But none of us did actually do that exercise that I could probably do blindfolded at this time, just because the application is not that large and I created most of it, the structure. But having this is actually, for me, what leads to one of your advice about saying, okay, it's nice, we have a process where the customer can go even toward the very, very detail of the site, but then what? And the fact is, we know when they are at the detail of a site that's probably have a risk regarding biodiversity, we want them to act on it. And if they don't know how, well, they could call professional, like my colleagues, which are doing that game. And this part was completely, and technically speaking, still is completely absent from the application, which was something that sounds obvious when you're looking at that, but we didn't look at it like that. So that was really something that is in the small area, but for me, that showed a bit that an exercise that in theory anyone in the development team could have done in a couple of hours, that is being shown to map the screen, was actually something that could bring a lot of value, and which we didn't, and that Feria actually did in this exploration phase.
Yeah, spot on, Martin. Yes, it's a great point. And it was probably the thing that was most out of line, say, with the business goals of biodiversity versus like the product. Because yeah, like the goal is to get people from monitoring their sites to actually acting on it. But yeah, there was no clear call to action at any point as to what you should do next. So yeah, that kind of gets put into a user journey where you see the flow, and ideally kind of we kind of did a simplified ideal flow, but you're going from your login to your dashboard, see the sites with the issues, view the issues in more detail, and then a call to action to find the solution. So you're kind of very linear, very kind of straightforward. And then it can kind of get more complex if you want to have drilling down into different pieces of information. But definitely that last step was one of the big things that was missing. So it's good to call that out, Martin. And yeah, so as we were like going through this process, we were looking at, as I said, at the site, trying to get a feel for the business as well. And we're just kind of taking notes and jotting things down in a shared Google Doc. Some of them are small things, some of them are kind of, just small UI things, and then some of them are bigger around the UX flow. And essentially what we did then was turn that document into this document here, which we have left in Figma. And so the idea, this is kind of what you want as the final output from an audit. And we kind of structured this in a way that can kind of make sense. So you've got the problem, first of all. So to take that call to action example, there's no call to action for users to take action on the sites. They see all the data about their sites, which is fine, but there's no real kind of clear next step for them at this stage of the process. So we defined the problem first of all. We then just explained why that's a problem. This one is pretty obvious that it'll impact your business goals and kind of the customer I suppose click through to seeking consultancy. Some of these, particularly around sort of UI ones, user interface kind of design, can be a little bit more obscure as to why that's a problem. So that's kind of why we have that column there, just to explain why that is problematic, so that you can get an idea of how urgent it would be to solve it. And then we look at a potential solution. So again, in each of these items, we've got our potential solution in theory, what we think it is. And then in this case, this wouldn't be done all the time in audits, but we actually wanted to kind of put some of the design or some of the theory into practice. So what we meant in relation to this call to action was to change around the design so that we'd have kind of a call to action on the top of my sites. So I can see that, these are the sites that need urgent action, or here's one kind of actually within a site. And we can see that the pesticide score is very high and the biodiversity score is moderately high. So you're kind of constantly falling through, I suppose, that flow that we looked at in the user journey. So we're getting from our kind of critical bits of information to kind of a call to action, or digging a little bit deeper and getting a more specific call to action, as the case may be. So we did include a prototype of that and kind of some example designs. And then finally, for each item, we were trying to rank them basically on the impact they could have versus the effort. So for this call to action one, we think it could have a really high impact on biodiversity's, not just the business goals in terms of getting people to kind of convert to the consultancy side, but actually in the impact, like the overall good impact, in that people might now have an idea of how to actually fix their sites or how to rectify some of those problems. So that could have like a really wide ranging and high impact. But it's probably relatively low effort, like a kind of a basic contact form or even a mail to, something like that, could be like just a good starting point to get things up and running. And as Martin said, like earlier on, you don't need this to be perfect to address some of these. Like it doesn't have to be really crisp UI all the time. You just need to put something in place that kind of does the job, and then you can kind of add to that or change it as needs be. So yeah, we looked at a couple of different things here. I think there are about 13 or 14 recommendations, And as I said, we graded them from kind of the high impact ones to the mid impact ones to the low impact ones. And obviously, the higher the impact and the lower the effort, the kind of more desirable it is. We did also kind of put together just some design kind of things, and this is kind of delving into a little bit of design theory, but again, this will hopefully be useful to biodiversity beyond this audit. And again, this is not, say, final designs or anything like that. That wouldn't really be the purpose of an audit, but this is just to kind of show where we would go next. You know, if we were to continue working together, we would probably be looking to do something like this, put in a design system, just because it allows biodiversity to scale a lot quicker. Your developers don't have to design and develop at the same time, which can kind of, you know, slow things down. So sometimes pausing and getting a design system like this in place can help out. And it's basically, we've just got kind of, you know, colors, examples of when they can be used, and kind of some rules around when to use them. And we've done the same thing with typography and some buttons, and some table design and some tags and kind of search and filters and drop downs, and a little bit kind of about branding and stuff as well. So that's just kind of a sample of a design system that could be used. And then the final thing we had was just kind of that prototype that I mentioned. As I said, these wouldn't be your kind of final designs, but they are just a way to show the theory being applied. So we've kind of got a lot of just loading there. We've got a lot of kind of table theory in the Figma file. So this is just an example of what a table can look like when you apply, say, a monospace font on numerical values, and numerical values, say, right aligned versus left aligned, and kind of more faded tags, just so that we can, if there's critical information there, we can make it kind of jump out. So that's kind of where we got to in terms of the 10-day audit. And yeah, the goal is just to kind of put biodiversity in a place where you can now pick things off this list at will. Don't have to all be addressed at once. They don't even all have to be addressed. But these are kind of the things we found that we think would make a difference for biodiversity going forward. Did I miss anything there, Martin? Was anything else that you thought was worth covering?
No, it was pretty well done. I think representative of the mission there, and yeah, indeed, it's what I put as an introduction, saying we knew our constraint, and I wanted to be relatively clear on that. Maybe due to past experience with designer, it's once in a while. You know, I had that as a programmer too, some kind of customer telling you at some point, the problem with you all is that the first thing you always said is you need to remove everything the previous guys have been doing and start over, which is generally what no customer want to hear at all. And I appreciate the following there. And indeed, in this list, there are things that we are clearly going to do. There are that I think we are, but I cannot say when. There are some that may be good to remember, maybe at least to stop the hemorrhage. I'm thinking about the standardization of component. Yeah, when will be valuable to do that? Probably not soon. That's not a good phase for doing that. But we can at least take care about not making the situation worse, which is something that's probably relatively low effort. It's discipline, which is another kind of beast, but it's probably relatively low effort and could be helped. So yeah, no, that was quite happy, and that you did the prioritization, at least the first go at it based on what you probably expected us, and it's reasonably on point. The first one are quite obvious, you know, from our point of view too.
Cool. So I guess the next thing we're kind of hoping to do on this live stream, we're only going to be kind of streaming for about an hour, so we're about halfway through. But we were thinking, if it's okay with you, Martin, if you would like to kind of try to implement one of these, could be kind of cool just to see you working in live, so that we can kind of see how it went from, I guess, Svenja's idea to try to get into a bit more green tech, and then all the way through to actually having something kind of tangible at the end. Will that work?
Yeah, sure. I'm reasonably used at making a fool of myself in front of an audience, that, thanks to the Wagon experience notably, so no worries about that. If I want to do the real funny part, is that I should try to submit a PR, because then my front-end colleagues, which tend to be much more square about doing things the right way, will probably not leave anything pass. But that will be an interesting one. But then we need another live stream. So now happy to try into, and we'll see what happens.
Cool, no worries. I might add Svenja back in here just as a developer as well, if that's okay, because she might be able to pair even a little bit.
Sure.
So I guess
I can use all help I can use, so no worries. I'm happy to.
So I guess the best way is probably if you can share your screen, Martin.
Yeah.
Is that possible as a guest?
Yeah, sure. And I'm just checking because they advised me to use both my monitor, but well, the fact is I'm in the meeting room to avoid doing noise, which means I'll have to switch quickly. Can you see my screen? It's probably not really interesting right now. I hope you can see, like, I'm normally on the browser there. So that's the application as it is right now. And this is a good screen because when I take Feria's audit, I checked a bit about something that could be done. Well, actually, Feria recommended there about, well, we spoke about this call to action missing example, and it can be as simple as what we see here, saying on top of the slide, you know what, you have, maybe it's a certain number, you have 5 sites which require urgent action, start acting now. And the start acting, the good point is that, well, we're a consulting company in Biodiversity, so I don't have to get very far to help a customer. It's probably just putting them in contact with one of my colleagues, which is something we see as a part of the application, but we thought a bit about being offline up to now, where indeed, best situation is that it can be directly inside the application. So here I was looking at taking what is probably the most obvious part, which is creating this little panel, and from there go to a contact form, which is non-existing, but I can imagine it exists, or it will exist later on. Or indeed, I was also thinking about, well, you know what, that can be a mail too. That's a way to start. So yeah, I have the application running on my machine. Hopefully, I should have my, so that's the one we're seeing. So that's good. For the people that are used to, we're using React, and not only are we using React, but we have a good bunch of components. Something that we discussed quite early with Feria is that we were all agreeing of the consistency, and this is something that as part of the team we realized, okay, we are not going to achieve consistency by ourselves. Like, yeah, we can create, we understand the principle of a design system on a 4-people team working on 2 applications, half of them being backend. It's complicated as a setup, outside of the fact that we may just not have the skills, but we also don't have the time. And so the way we solve that is saying, you know what, we are going to use a component library. At least every single component of a certain type will look the same, and that's a good place to start, and we'll see after that. So a good bunch of those things are not ours. They are actually a component from the SHAD library, which has been, I think, acquired by Vessel. Acquired being it's a one-person job, and he was hired. So that's probably the way you acquire libraries, because it's open source, obviously. So here we have a bunch of rows, and so this is already the one with the icons, which means it's probably this that I'm looking at. And so I want the little panel to go on top of it. So looks good. Let's try it out, and let's make some front-end developer cry in the audience. So we need a new line. Let's start at least with, and looks like someone put some justify. Yeah, and that's obviously GitHub Copilot giving me advice. I'm a very test-oriented person, so I like to see whether what I'm doing makes sense or not, but it does. That's good. So if something there, I probably don't want to write that. Nice thing, I'm new to Figma, but I didn't realize that you can actually really take the text directly. So the things that I'm not going to, speaking of component, do that myself. There is something that's called a card in the way that, so that's really coming from ChatCN. We'll see. Okay, so we see already a little border. It's not exactly wonderful, but it's a place to start. We probably want that to be aligned. So yeah, that's Tailwind also, in case someone missed it. The debate about whether it's good or horribly bad is raging. On our side, it's making us very productive, so that's cool. So that's the component library. Let's look at what those card looks like. Oh, nice. We have a header and then a title. And okay, let's take everything. And that's probably should be my title. And formatting is useless. Thanks for auto formatter. Oh, I broke something. That's interesting. That didn't happen yesterday. Oh, maybe I should make my imports. That's less thread. Okay, so that's a good place to start. And I'm not sure I have content. I have probably not a footer at all. I guess I could have button. Okay, it's getting there. We have a description. That's part of the thing that wouldn't fly, because in real world, we are based in Belgium. We're used to something that comes very fast, which is called internationalization. When you're in a 10 million country with 3 different languages, those kind of needs come really, really fast compared to maybe much bigger countries that can work with just managing a single one. So okay, it looks already close to that. So now I guess that colors are actually meaningful. So let's try to pick those. We can even do a copy there. So about the don't do that at home, kids, I'm going to apply the background directly here. I'm using Tailwind. I should obviously put that as a custom color somewhere in my config so that we use the same everywhere. I'm not sure I have time for that. So yeah, I'm going to do that. We don't want border. Okay, are we getting close? It's not there, but we're getting somewhere. I like the button that was get expert help. Let's be. And same principle there.
Yeah, I must say I really like it that Figma, that you have all the attributes, like that you get all the attributes from Figma directly and that you can implement it. Yeah.
To be honest, it's impressive because we're quite close. Well, I'll let Feria decide whether we're close or not, because I'm not always a good judge of that. But according to me, it's actually not far from what we are. There's a small, I think you're using small shadow there, where it may not be exactly the same, but that's a bit also a rule. We're probably going to use the same everywhere. That's, oh yeah. Oh, do we have the, do we see the, no, it's not at that point to showing the overcolor. I could probably, how's that
I can get you the hover color. It's in the design system, Martin. 1 second.
Oh yeah, I guess it's showing it was a bit for the joke, to be honest. I'll try something. It needs to be slightly clearer, let's say. So, more darker, I would say. So let's try something like that. If I'm doing my operation correctly. Oh, that one didn't work. I see over that I put. This one I'm not sure enough to be able to do that properly using the. No, it shouldn't be that. How is it?
If
so
you go,
Martin,
389488 as the hex code.
3899 488, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn it, you know that by heart. It's impressive. Yeah, I think I'm probably missing something. I'm not sure my. It's BG, so it should be okay. And it moving. Oh no, okay. That's probably just that. Oh, I didn't put it on the button. I put it on the whole card. Yeah. So not exactly going to win a prize with that one, but it should work. I have nothing there, but I could easily lead to this non-existing. Oh, thanks. Oh, I like that one. Yeah, why not? Well, that's good. I don't think we have contact us on the side, but the principle is good. No, it's actually called. Who did that? Contact. Oh yeah, damn it! It's not even the link. People should stop doing web page which are not web enough. But that's not really the plan of the exercise. So they just put something reasonable here. So yeah, to be honest, is that incredible? No. Is that a progress from what we have? Probably yes, because at least people can start doing something. And the only part that's objectively missing for this to work in a PR is probably mainly the translation in the three language that we are working with right now. And we could probably do the same kind of exercise. I was thinking it's a bit more work, but with the thing you put something where the explanation about the panel are actually in a collapsible, yeah, voilà. Because this is something we have a lot of complexities about is the copywriting. Like we need to be super careful because it's a combination. I'm going to stop sharing, I think, at that point. We really a bit between, we want this to be clear for the customer, and our customers are not specialists in biodiversity. They are specialists in real estate. They are public institution of so. We want that to be correct. We back all this application on the scientific experience of our colleague. And also to make this even more complicated, you start with regulation aspect, which is companies are supposed to report in a certain format. And that means we need to use the same words, else it won't work there. And so it has been an interesting three-way headache between, I would say, business/sales, scientific part and development part about, okay, how can we do with us playing basically the layman? We don't know anything specific about biodiversity in our team. And so we can play that we don't understand or not. But that's really about, yeah, the content writing. We're not at the end of it. And it's probably going to take some cycle to find this good middle ground. Yeah, between the complexity of the area and the fact that our customer want relatively simple advice, things they can act on. In a way, we're in the same situations. What Feria had to deliver is that, yeah, they want something they can do with it today. It doesn't, if they cannot act, what's the audit for? So yeah, I hope it gave a good example there. Thanks a lot for getting me here.
Thank you so much. George has a really good question. Were there recommendations on accessibility?
And not specifically this time, Sven. Yeah, it would be something that you could typically cover in an audit. But again, with the tight turnaround for just 10 days, we kind of had it as a plan that we were hoping to get some coverage in the last couple of days, but it was just squeezed on what we had done. So that would definitely be something, if we were to say expand the audit for another few days, that would have been something that would have been nice to cover, and would be something to keep in mind when you're building out. But yeah, we didn't get a chance to include it this time, unfortunately.
Cool. Well, thank you, Martin, so much for letting us put you on the spot to do some live coding. And yeah, I think for me, this is a really good example of, so we work with companies of all shapes and sizes, from startups to scale-ups to enterprises. And sometimes I think it doesn't matter what size your team is. It's very easy for developers to feel like there's a whole load of responsibilities and things that you need to be working on. And for yourselves, Martin, like you're looking at like data presentation, you're looking at like just the actual scalability of the business, the reliability. And so where you can bring in a little bit of expertise just to help you organize your thinking, and give you a kind of prioritized list of, okay, these are the most important things and the most impactful things that we can work on. That tiny little bit of consulting help can really help you relieve the pressure from your own team and that cognitive load of all of the things that you have to do with your team of 4, and then but at the same time really help the business progress forward. And yeah, someone external can often identify really simple, straightforward things, or help you things you probably already know, but help you prioritize them and find a really simple solution to fixing a problem, and then kind of kick on and hopefully, you know, make the business sustainable and even help it grow in the next year as you're launching new propositions as well. So thank you for the opportunity to work with you, and we wish you all the success in the future. And yeah, hopefully we'll do another one of these in future.
No, but thanks a lot. The help was really, saying I appreciate a lot all the insight we got there, and I'm quite confident about the value we can have with that, even on I would say the midterm. The short term is obvious with the CTA and these kind of things that we probably get into our roadmap pretty soon. But also, yeah, with the process, which was clearly good for us. As you said, a small team, when we are, it's nice to see those big companies everywhere where you have all those roles. That's nice, but in our situation, product development and design are us. Several admin is us too. Like put one, like we have salespeople and customer facing a few. That everything else is on this. It's something I love on a personal level, but it means obviously that you're doing trade-off and you are working with a more broad set of skills which lack in deepness, which is something I'd say no as a trade-off, but it means also that indeed short stint can help, because we're starting from not so much. There's a lot of draft stuff everywhere, because it's the way it is, I would say, in a way. So this worked really well as a collaboration. Thanks again.
Wonderful. Feria, Svenja, any closing thoughts, or are we good to finish this stream?
Yeah, I really just want to say thank you for also helping me reach my Q4 goal. So thanks to George, thanks to everyone, and yeah, it was really, really nice.
Yeah, and from my side, just thanks Martin for coming on the stream and for being so open when we were working together. It was really, really fun, really nice project to be part of, and thanks to Michael and Cyril and Iman as well, who I spoke to on the team there. So yeah, it was really, really cool project to be part of, and yeah, wish you all the best going forward.
Bye everyone.
See you all. Bye.
Bye now.